It's June, and so it's PTSD Awareness Month, which isn't just something I recognize on the calendar. It's a huge part of my story. It's something I have lived with for years without even realizing it. If you've ever felt like something was off but couldn't name it, if you've ever felt broken, numb, overreactive, or emotionally stuck, I'm here to tell you you're not alone. Hi, I'm Christina Medina, a BS coach, which stands for belief system, but sometimes it can mean for something else. And I help women uncover and rewrite the beliefs that keep them stuck in pain, self doubt, and burnout. Look, I'm not a therapist. But I've lived through the kind of trauma that rewires your nervous system. And I've done the deep work to unlearn the stories that were never mine to carry. Let's talk about what it's really like to recover from PTSD. For a long time, I'm talking decades, I lived in denial. Part of me knew something wasn't right. There were signs. I had emotional shutdown, reactivity, physical symptoms that I couldn't explain, and a constant need to stay busy. But I couldn't face it. So I put on the many layers of mask. I smiled, I functioned, I helped others, I performed wellness while quietly falling apart. The truth is, the trauma didn't start in adulthood. There was a compound effect, a buildup of fear, confusion, emotional wounds, and unmet needs from childhood. These were little ruptures with no repair, moments where I learned don't cry, be strong, keep the peace. My nervous system never got a chance to settle, it just adapted. And by the time I was 14 years old, I was already in a toxic and violent relationship. I remember at 15, I was sitting in a psychiatrist's office and she looked at me and she said, "You've already lived through what the average 40-year-old woman has." Now, back then, I didn't fully understand what she meant at the time, but now I do. She was referring to the trauma I had already carried from childhood. And then on top of the domestic violent relationship that nobody really talked about. I was still a child, but my body had already learned how to brace, how to shut down, and how to survive. Now, I didn't have the proper support, language, or tools back then, so I turned to what was accessible: unhealthy coping mechanisms. I'm talking drugs, alcohol, numbing, escaping, not because I was rebellious, but because I was trying to survive something I didn't know how to process. And then, just 2 years after that, at 17, I experienced yet another traumatic event. And this was a physical assault that shocked my nervous system and added yet another layer of pain I was not equipped to process. I told myself I was fine. I moved on. I buried it because that's what I knew how to do. And for a while, I actually believed I had healed, especially when I became a mother. Something in me switched into perfect purpose and protection. My focus was fully on giving my son a life completely different from the one I had known. I thought, this is it. This is my redemption. I'm good now. But I'm here to tell you, trauma doesn't disappear just because we become caretakers. It hides and it waits. And when I became an empty nester, when the house got quiet and the distractions faded, all the things I had buried started to resurface. The pain, the fear, the unspoken, the beliefs. And I had to face what I never really healed. Eventually, life made denial impossible. Certain memories, triggers, and body responses got louder. I couldn't fake my way through it any longer. I broke down and finally started acknowledging the trauma. And when I did, it was like opening a floodgate of emotions. I'm talking anger, confusion, deep grief, despair. I lost hope. I lost a sense of who I was. I also lost myself spiritually. It was really messy. It was terrifying. And yet, it was necessary. Because on the other side of acknowledgement was acceptance. And I'm not talking about the kind of acceptance where you love what happened, but the kind where you say, this happened, this is my story, and I can't heal what I won't face. And here's something that's important to name. Trauma doesn't just leave wounds, it plants beliefs. Somewhere in all of that survival, I internalized messages like, I have to stay strong. I can't trust anyone, including myself. I'm too sensitive. My emotions are a burden. If I slow down, I'll fall apart. No one's coming to save me, so I better do it all alone. I'm not worthy. I'm not enough. I'm broken. I'm a hot mess express. You get the picture. These became the blueprints I lived by. Quiet, subconscious beliefs that shaped everything: my relationships, my health, and my self worth. And when I finally started doing the real, deep inner work, I uncovered more than 60 limiting beliefs rooted in my lived experiences. Not surface level doubts, but deeply ingrained survival strategies, stories my nervous system clung to for safety. And that's why I'm so passionate about belief work, because this isn't just about mindset, my friends. It's about the story your body was told and how we begin to rewrite it. And if you're still in that place of denial where it feels easier to stay busy, numb, or distracted, please don't shame yourself. Denial is a survival strategy. It's your brain and body doing what they know how to do. And if you're wondering how PTSD might be showing up in your own life, I want to name a few symptoms I didn't even recognize as trauma related. Constant distraction, disorganization. I thought I had undiagnosed ADHD, but turns out it's PTSD symptoms. Avoiding stillness, staying busy so I didn't have to feel, overreacting to small things, shutting down emotionally in relationships, guilt anytime I rested. These were survival strategies, not personality traits. And now I can say this: because of the deep healing work I've done, because I finally faced what I was carrying, I'm able to speak this truth out loud without breaking down, without shame. And I want to say that not to impress you, but to show you what's possible. This conversation doesn't get spoken about enough, but it's time we start, not just in whispers behind closed doors, but publicly, boldly, fiercely, owning our story together. There's still so much stigma around PTSD. We often associate it with the military or combat veterans. And while that is absolutely 100% valid, I'm here to say it's not the only version. Here are some myths that I had to unlearn. That you can't have PTSD if it's been years since the trauma. BS. That it only counts if the trauma was physical or violent. That's BS. That witnessing something traumatic doesn't qualify. That is also BS. That collective trauma doesn't imprint you if it didn't happen to you. That's also BS. Let's talk about something real. When the world watched people jumping out of the buildings on 9/11, when the towers fell and it replayed on every news channel for weeks, that didn't just shock us, it shaped us. Especially if you were a child, a teen, or already carrying stress in your body. Events like that can wire in fear, hypervigilance, and helplessness. PTSD isn't about how bad the event was. It's about how your nervous system experienced it and what never got processed. Once I accepted the truth of what I'd lived through, I stopped trying to push through it on my own. And that's where the real recovery began. Not the social media version, the layered, gritty, life rebuilding kind. Recovery meant understanding how trauma lived in my body, identifying my triggers, relearning how to feel without flooding. My eyes are burning, letting go of shame, and asking for help, both professionally and personally. And I don't just say coping mechanisms, I mean healing tools. This includes things like rest, boundaries, breath work, somatic movement, nervous system regulation. This includes Reiki, sound healing, cold plunges, and deep embodiment work. Journaling, telling the truth, therapy, talk therapy, EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. Oh, that's a hard one for me to always remember, especially after my car wreck and I have cognitive issues. But these became my anchors, not punishments, not perfection, just practice. And I can honestly say that I'm in the recovery stage now, not healed, not done, but free from the shame that kept me silent for so long. My eyes are still burning. Let me be clear. Healing isn't a one and done event. It's a lifelong practice of tending, noticing, and choosing something new. Some days feel solid. Some days something old resurfaces, and I meet it with more skill and softness and compassion with grace. And I want to name something else here too. Healing isn't just about staying positive or choosing love and light and smiling and being pretty and all that stuff, because that's called spiritual bypassing. It's when we try to spiritually rise above pain instead of actually sitting with it. Real healing requires us to feel, grieve, rage, rest, and reconnect, not just slap a positive affirmation on top of the trauma. I'm finally getting reacquainted with the woman underneath the survival. Not the version shaped by trauma, but the one who always existed beneath it. If you're somewhere in this journey, from denial to unraveling to daily practice, please know you are not broken. You are not behind, and you are not alone. Your nervous system has been doing its best to protect you, and now it's asking for something new. Drop a comment if this spoke to you, or if you're in your own recovery right now. Subscribe for more belief breaking, body honoring truth every week. You don't have to carry the shame anymore. Your story is valid. Your healing is sacred, and your future is still yours to claim. Let's keep moving through it together. Sending so much love, light, and recovery.